I was watching The Karate Kid with my son and daughter today. And this is the first movie, the first. And here's the thing, we've seen the Cobra Kai, uh, the TV, the series. There's a couple of seasons, and we've seen that together as a family. So we're now watching the original movie, and Mr. Miyagi in one of the scenes is wearing that white handkerchief as a bandana on his head, and there's like a star symbol and some stripes going along the side. And I remember as a kid wanting one of those really badly, and they were even selling them as a kid. They were selling them at the time. I lived with my mom in Brooklyn, and on Myrtle Avenue, where all the shops were, there were these bandanas that were the same style as the bandanas in the movie. And I always, I really wanted one, and I was telling begging my mom to get me one of those. So the memory's pretty clear in my mind about this bandana. I never was able to get the bandana because my mother was like that. Anything I wanted as a kid, my mother always felt like, if you want that, call your father. Your father get you what you want, I'll get you what you need. So I get it. And what was interesting about this scene in the movie today was that the bandana is like a navy blue. Well, the bandana is white, and the pattern on top of the bandana is navy blue. So I'm like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, dude, this is not supposed to be navy blue. Almost looks black, of course. Navy blue looks very black, especially up against the white. Because when I was a kid, that bandana was white, but the print was not navy blue. The print was red. And I remember that crystal clear in my mind, that Mr. Miyagi's bandana was white with a red print, some sort of star print, circular starburst style print. So that's changed. And when these things happen, you automatically go to the Mandela effect. And you start to say, this obviously is part of the Mandela effect. And the Mandela effect is just a name for a phenomenon that happens upon close inspection of things. You start to see things that weren't the way they were, and they have changed. It reminds me of an interview I saw with Little John. No, not Little John, with T-Pain. T-Pain was on Drink Champs, and T-Pain was telling a story about a 2009 Summer Jam in New Jersey concert, and how this is when Jay-Z came up with the song Death of Autotune. And he's rapping on stage, Death of Autotune, moment of silence. And T-Pain is telling the story how he came out there on stage and how he extended his hand to Jay-Z. At the end of the song, he said he extended his hand and that Jay-Z looked at him and said, "Good riddance," and then just threw the mic or turned around and walked away. And he was standing there with his hand out. So I decided to go check that scene out because I've seen it before, but I had no real memory of it. And what do I see? T-Pain never extended his hand. T-Pain never, if you look it up, 2009, Summer Jam, Jay-Z, T-Pain, there's at least 3 angles of this scene. Someone backstage had an angle, someone in the crowd had an angle, and then there was another one of like someone taking video of the actual teleprompter or the Jumbotron or the screen or whatever it is that they're using. And T-Pain never extended his hand. So immediately you would think that, T-Pain thinks he's extended his hand, but I mean, the guy was pretty, what's the guy, Nori, the one who hosts the show, and EMF, I think his name is. I can't remember what the other guy's name is, forgive me. They were both trying to talk him into like recapping the situation with an open mind that possibly Jay-Z didn't see your hand. Possibly he was so in the zone that he didn't even, it wasn't that he snubbed you, and he swears he got snubbed. He swears he totally got snubbed. He swears that Jay-Z did know that, did look at him right in his face, right in his hand, see his hand, and then just said, "Good riddance," and walked away. But if you look at it now, on video, on the angles that we have, T-Pain stands there next to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z never looked even in his direction. And Jay-Z, throughout the whole performance of Death to Autotune song, he never even acknowledged that he was on stage with anyone else other than himself. It was pretty zen. It was pretty, what's the word? He was laser focused. He was laser focused. And I would argue that that's a Mandela effect. That T-Pain possibly did extend his hand, but the way reality presents it in this reality, his hand never was extended. So I think it's kind of cool that T-Pain is part of the Mandela effect, along with others, like Mike Tyson and Holyfield with the ear biting. I've talked about that many times. That was my this guy I listened to named Matt on the internet from Quantum of Conscience, and it's spelled Con Science, C-O-N Science, Con Science for Conscience, the Quantum of Conscience channel. And he talks about anchors and like, what's your anchor? What is your, like, this is what changed me. This is what changed my idea of this reality, this setup that we in, this stage that we're on to some degree. And my anchor for me was the Holyfield Tyson fight when, you know, Holyfield gets his ear ripped off, and the very top of the ear too. And I always tell people to describe and draw. I always say, take a pen and a pad, or just a pen and paper, whatever have you, and draw the part of the ear that you remember being missing, and then go watch the video. Because no longer is Holyfield's ear missing. No longer does Mike Tyson spit the ear out on the ground. No longer does the fight get stopped after the ear biting. The fight actually continues, and they go to the end of the round. Whereas in my memory, in my reality, Mike Tyson bites Holyfield once, gets a warning from the referee, bites his ear the second time, spits out a chunk of his ear, and the fight stops. And that's when the big brawl happens, and it's crazy. Mike Tyson is hooking off, swinging at the people. It was absolutely mayhem. Whereas if you look at that now, Mike Tyson does bite him twice, but the second bite is just blood running down Holyfield's neck. Not what I remember. So I always tell people, if you're trying to wake anyone up, all you have to do is tell them to draw that part of the ear that you've seen, and then draw it. And then what I always do is I always draw the part of the ear that I remember being bitten off, and then I have them draw it, and then we watch the movie, and then I show them my drawing and they show me theirs, and they usually add up. You know, 95% of the time they'll be almost identical, whereas our reality will show us that it's not identical, it's actually totally different. And like the T-Pain thing, I would believe that T-Pain did extend his hand, but this reality doesn't show that. This reality shows another version of that, you know. And that's what makes this reality so fluid, that the things that you believe wholeheartedly happened, when you look back at it, has changed. And possibly we're in some sort of machine that generates reality. There's this machine that we're possibly in that is generating so much reality that nowadays, with so much stuff being recorded and us as the people being able to look back at it, it's almost can't keep up. It's like a lie. Let's look at this fluid reality as some sort of lie. And we all know that when you lie, it's hard to remember the lie. It's so difficult to remember your lie when you lie. You lie, and then you have to stop and remember this lie. And as years and time goes by, it changes. And that is the proof of this reality and the stage that we're on. We're on some sort of stage, one in which that is very, very fluid, moving at all different types of speeds that we can't even comprehend, to the point where it's slowing down things and speeding things up, and then it has to back itself up, and then has to remember the lie that it told, and then it changes. The lie that this reality tells us is constantly moving, and it's constantly being asked to show me again what happened that day. And when you go back, it didn't happen the way you remembered it. So I wouldn't say reality is a lie. It's just part of the analogy. But I would say that reality is very fluid. And these are the reasons why I don't get sad or depressed any longer. You know, I used to suffer from what I thought was depression, and I no longer suffer from that, because I can always say to myself that maybe it didn't happen the way you remember it. Maybe that's just your memories of an incident that's caused you pain. Maybe that reality is totally different. And I get comfort in that. And when I start to think like that, Start to feel better. And I snap right out of it. So any sad feelings or anything like that doesn't really exist. Not for me. Not any longer. And I mean that wholeheartedly. So if you're out there suffering from depression, understand that your idea of the way things happen and that pain that you're feeling might not be real. Might be some sort of program, and you're on a default and your eyes. You know, I always know there's certain people on my timeline. They're the first to put up the picture, and they'll put up like the best picture you can ever imagine of someone who died. And then I would either share that picture or just copy the picture, edit the picture to make it look like as if I'm not sharing someone's picture. I'm actually posting it when it's not true. I'm just auto mourning. We're on these autopilot, auto mourning scenarios constantly. We're constantly doing this. So I just wanted to take a moment and put out a little content, talk about things that's on my mind. And this Karate Kid today triggered that for me. It triggered the reality that this reality is ever changing. Just wanted to say that. You are appreciated. Thanks for checking out my little channel. Big Elvis, the Chef Rosenberg. Boom, you are all that.